Was there much discussion between the two of you in which direction the album should go?
There was, through just like having dinner together a couple of times and talking about what we liked and what we kind of just launched into it and started making songs, and it found its way kind of naturally, but it took a few days to get into the swing of things, and definitely a few edgy moments of I don't want to do it that way, and eventually we found our kind of our path, and he kind of really pushed me to write songs in a different way that I wasn't used to writing. He was
what kind of way is that?
Well, it was I guess in a way writing a lot in the studio, but I think he was more so picking up on little half baked ideas that weren't really fully realized yet, and he'd pick up on them because it had that atmosphere, or it had the thing we were talking about, and we'd just work on that, and eventually it would evolve into a song, and it would have not come out of sitting down with a guitar and working out the chords. It could have came out of producing it and keep on working with it and seeing what idea you get next, and that was really a cool new way for me to do it. I never got to work on Pro Tools like that before because I've always done analog stuff, and so it was actually an eye-opener to what you can do. I was such a kind of like, Pro Tools, sort of gets rids it of its soul, but yeah, I had to eat humble pie.
What did you learn from Pro Tools? Were you actually behind the buttons, or was it?
No, Burke was behind it, and I guess it was more so. I think he managed to capture a more spontaneous energy than I would have on my own, and I was kind of doing stuff on my own. And I made my last record on my own, and it satisfied a certain thing, but it was quite mellow and it was quite introspective and trippy. But I wanted to make something a bit more in your face, a little bit more representational of what I do on stage, and the kind of the drumming and the just kind of the teetering on the edge of disaster kind of stuff. And so with Pro Tools you can record lots of takes and find the best bits or the most inspired bits and put them together and make them the song. So that's kind of, we got to experiment a lot more like that.
Now you've recorded analog and digital. What's the beauty of analog recordings, do you think?
Oh, the sound is magical on analog, it feels relatively effortless to make something sound cool and interesting and warm and fat when you've got tape and a good mic, and old records were made like that, so there's sort of a familiarity. It's like film with video. They can make video look great and they make digital sound great, but it will never have that little slight otherworldly kind of quality that you can't put your finger on. So yeah, I think analog is great. Yeah.
Which old records are really an example in that way for you? Like, wow, they did a great job. I want to.
All of them. All old stuff sound, like whether it be through the Beatles kind of pop era or rock and roll and stuff, but even just the soul stuff sounds great. Old jazz stuff sounds great. There was kind of between the 50s and the 60s and early 70s, there was this kind of sweet spot of analog recording, and then things sounded great in the 90s and 80s, but in a new way, a digital way, and there's merit in that as well. That's the thing, I guess. Just there's no wrong or right.
And now you've tasted the digital.
Yeah, I've had little tastes of everything, and now
it
put it together and make my own new sort of celebrity chef dish of analog meets digital. Yeah, that kind of is what the record feels like. There's still analog stuff on it, and every instrument, analog synths, and it's the first time that I've ever really played around with synthesizers, and you can waste so much time going, ooh, and making yourself laugh and making crazy noises. So that was fun.
Yeah. So it's the direction you may follow in the future as well, the digital recordings, or maybe just going back to the analog.
I think just whatever seems fun at the time. You got to just follow your gut instinct, and that's what made my first record, was trying to do it on my own for the first time. And I've done demos before and things that I'd fallen in love with because it had that atmosphere that I was trying to create. But sometimes I could have been out of my depth, but it would totally work for that album, but it just wouldn't have felt fresh to do it for this album.
Can you remember what started this new album off? Was there a certain moment that you wanted to, that made you realize that this is the right time to make a new album, or was it different for you?
It was the first time that we stopped touring finally. We've spent me and EJ spent about 3 years constantly, a couple of weeks off here and there and Christmas off, and pretty busy. And we made a record with some friends called under the name Barb, in between, and an EP. So there was sort of recording, but no time that I could kind of dedicate to making my follow-up record, the big, important statement that you're making again. And that was kind of what was scary about it, I suppose, is like feeling like it's a statement, you know.
Did you really saw it as making a new statement? Or?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I mean, that's what was so intimidating about it. But then that's what it feels like now in hindsight. It does feel really honest and stuff, and it is a statement. But I think it's not very conducive to writing a good song, sitting there going, "This has to be the best song I've ever written about what I think." And as soon as you do that, it's not fun, and you don't write good songs. But as soon as you have fun making music again and make a wild noise that, you know, blows your head off, then you figure out how to make it a song. You get that you can't sit around and wait to be inspired. You have to make the inspiration. Yeah.
Was that a learning school for you, or was that a natural flow that you flowed into?
I think I probably was really freaked out and worried about not being able to do it, but I think that was probably all part of what makes the inspiration, be feeling anxious or feeling, you know, pressure. But, you know, I don't know. It's hard now because in the moment it seemed completely different. Now in hindsight, I'm kind of like, that may all make sense.
Yeah.
I did it, and there it is, you know.